everybody. How are you doing today? Welcome to another awesome Bible study.
Yeah.
We're doing this a little bit differently today. We noticed our video quality always comes out a little iffy on
the live.
So we're going to try it this way this week and see how it goes. Let us know if you prefer this or if you prefer live. And we'll do it that way.
Last time we did live, especially in this room, it cut out halfway through and we're like, wait a minute, what happened?
Yeah.
That was weird. And then today we actually had a power outage and then we didn't have internet for a while. So just to ensure that we don't have any crazy interruptions, we're trying it this way. We'll see what happens.
And that was our issue last week. We lost internet all day.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
We couldn't get to the live Bible study, so we apologize for that inconvenience.
Yep. Oh, we gotta say hey to all the new members that we got. That's been a blessing. We are so glad you guys have joined us. It's an awesome.
Up to 50!
50! Yay! It's awesome to see the group growing and to see so many people coming together and just be so pro Christ. You know?
Absolutely. It's wonderful, and we encourage you all to please post, share with us. This whole point of this group was to help us all learn and grow together in Christ. So please feel free to post your stuff. I know one of our newest members, Pamela, has been doing that.
Yes, it's been awesome.
Your writings are beautiful, so we wanted to extend that shout out to you. All right, are you ready to dive in?
Let's do it. Let's dive in.
All right, so we're going to be doing this a little bit differently. We're only going to be doing 2 verses.
Yeah, they're deep, though.
Yes.
It's deep verses.
They are power-packed, and we do have a couple supporting verses in there. Yes. But these 2 verses are very revealing and really guide us. So we're going to be starting in 1 John.
Yep.
And we're going to be doing chapter 2, verses 15 through 16. I'm going to go ahead with those. So the section is all about do not love the world. So we're going to talk about what that means.
Yep.
All right, so verse 15. Do not love the world, nor the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh and the lust of the eyes and the boastful pride of life is not from the Father, but is from the world.
So you got to appreciate so many verses in the Bible really make you sit down and think.
Yes.
And contemplate what are they saying? What's the context? What are they getting at? What's happening? What is God trying to tell me? And what can I take from this?
Yeah.
Yep.
And my thing has always been like when I first read this, I was like, do not love the world.
Right, yeah.
Aren't we supposed to be loving?
It's our temporary home. You know, we're here right now.
So we have to think about, okay, well, what are we talking about when we're talking about what is of the world? What is worldliness?
Yep.
So it sounds like we're saying do not love the world, but really what worldliness is, and John breaks it down into 3 categories.
Yes.
So we have lust of the flesh.
That's 1.
Lust of the eyes.
2.
And boastful pride of life.
That's 3.
And we will be digging deeper into what of those things mean.
Yeah, but it's those 3 doors or the 3 pathways in which so many of the things that can lead us from take us away from God's path and His plan for us. And so many people have started opening these doors. They start going through it, and then they never look back.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to get wrapped up, especially in today's world. Behind these doors is you can almost encompass everything inside of all the things that we aren't supposed to do, the things that we're supposed to avoid. When we're trying to be more Christ-like, these are the 3 doors you don't want to open.
Exactly. Yep. And we'll also, at the very end, talk about what doors are we supposed to be opening.
Yes.
What does God want us to actually love in comparison?
So I know you were saying that some people associate the worldliness with exterior behavior only, or external behavior only.
Yeah, so we are talking about sometimes we're thinking of, we're only meaning the people we associate with, or the places we go.
Or the activities.
Right, so but we can see as we dig into these that these are things that really start internally and in your heart. Because it's very easy to try to avoid those things that are worldly while still harboring love for things in your heart. And sometimes we even like to live in denial about these things, or maybe we're not even understanding that we do have love of these things, and we're going to dig into why that causes so many issues.
Well, it's like just because you don't participate in something doesn't mean that you don't still kind of support it from the sideline, right? You're not just like, okay, well, yay, rah, rah, it's still happening. I may not be part of it, though, but I'm glad it's happening. You know what I mean?
Right.
That sort of thing. And I feel like it's so easy to look beyond that. Well, I'm not participating. I'm not part of it. I may have opened the door and I'm looking through it, and I'm not hating everything I see. So it's like, well, I'm okay because I'm still on this side. We have to watch out for that,
Well, it also goes back to a point that we've made before. It's like we can't trick God.
Exactly right, yeah.
Because God knows what's in your heart.
Yep.
So we can worldly avoid things.
Yeah.
But he knows what's in here and what's in here. So if that's not in line,
that's it. You can trick your family members, your friends, your boss. I'm sure we've all done that.
You even trick your pastor.
You can trick your pastor. You can trick your church congregation. You can trick everyone, but you can't trick God.
Right.
And when it comes to that day, that you're called upon to answer for all the things in your life. What have you done? What have you done for God? Have you spread His word? Did you talk about the gospel? Did you spread the gospel with others? The good news, the salvation, and everything that you've done has to come up to that point. Mm-hmm. You can't trick Him. You can't be like, well, God, I was there and I was doing it all. I did my resume that I typed up for you is so amazing, and it's like. No, it didn't work that way. Yeah.
But no, the reality is that it's what's going on in here that He cares about. And sometimes these things happen almost innocently. And we don't even acknowledge that they're happening. Yep. And I'll share some of my experiences as we dig into some of these. So we're going to start with that first category.
Lust of the flesh.
Yes. So
the first door.
I think that it's kind of obvious what this means, so we won't dig too deep into it. But it's just having a fixation on satisfying physical pleasures.
Yeah, it's physical gratification,
So it's like taking control of you, know, and this could be food.
Yeah, that's it.
Which I think is something all of us struggle with from and this could be sex. It could be anything that's just a physical pleasure that you just obsess over too much. And
I mean, it could even be, you think about addictions and those types of things. These are things that, once you start, your body craves it, and then you go back to it, and then it's starting to rule your body. And that even goes back to, Romans 8:6, which is the mind ruled by the flesh is death, and the mind ruled by the spirit is life and peace. And that's so true. Yeah. When you let your life be run by your addictions or what your body wants right now, what feels good isn't always what's good for you in the long run.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like smoking.
Exactly right. Yep.
Or we've struggled with that before.
Yeah. Cigarettes were not easy. Well, we quit them a bunch. You always go back, but it's been like 5, 6, 7 years now. You know what I mean? But at the time, it feels great. And you're like, oh, great, I'm gonna go get a pack of cigarettes, and awesome. And then you feel great. But the long-term repercussions of that is you're killing yourself, and you're now a slave to this addiction. You don't have a choice. It controls you. And I mean, even when we were trying to quit, you could see the emotional ups and downs we would go through. It was brutal.
Yeah. You become someone else.
You do, yep.
And that's something that is very apparent as we talk about these, is it can change who you are, and then it starts leading you off of God's path.
Yep.
Because you're no longer fixated on spiritual life and wellness. You're focused on feeding the addiction.
Yes.
And I mean, you'll notice, if you start doing things like way outside of what is practical, just to get that, you're probably dealing with an addiction. We noticed one day when we were in our smoking, and you always know that you need to quit, right? It's always in the back of your head.
Yeah, cigarettes aren't good for you.
You just keep denying. You're like, it's fine, I'll do it later. But there was one day, it was freezing outside. And raining, because we were up north in Virginia, and we were huddled under the same umbrella in the rain just because we needed to have it. All right, come on.
It wasn't worth it, but we were out there doing it anyway, because you're just going to do that. And then it turns into every time you're slightly stressed, you just become a slave to the emotions and to the cravings, and then you just have to satisfy it. You're like, I have no control. I got to do this. And so then you go out there, you whatever you may be addicted to, whatever it is, it's hard to break those things, but it's necessary because you want to be, a slave to God, do good things, those things. You don't want to be a slave to these fleshly desires, which is, oh, let's go smoke, oh, let's go drink, oh, there's all sorts of drugs out there, oh, I have to have, all these types of food every night, I have to have 15 cakes, whatever it is. And you're a slave to that now, and that's going to run your life. And then the longer it stays there, it's going to become a habit. And then before you know it, it's defining who you are.
Yeah.
Now you're the person that, everyone is, oh, yeah, he smokes a lot, though. You know what I mean? And so it's like, oh, okay.
Well, and I mean, to add to your point, God wants us to rely on Him for our strength and to get us through hard times. He wants us to always go to Him. So if we're going to other things like food or cigarettes or whatever it is, that it's not going to give you the strength that you actually need. And now you're starting to go for a different source instead of God, which is exactly the opposite of the intention.
No, absolutely.
So I think we dug deep into the first category. So now we're going to the second one.
Lust of the eyes.
Yes. So what are we talking about, lust of the eyes?
So lust of the eyes is when you, let's say you see something and it's, we'll say it's a new car. Some new cars coming out. I don't know. I don't know cars very well. So some new cars coming out.
A fancy car.
Some fancy car, right? And then you see it and, oh boy, you want that car. And you want it so bad that you start to forget what's around you. You start to forget that you even have a house. You start to being less grateful. Now you're focusing so much on this. It is like the greed. It is the greed and the insatiable need to have more.
Yes.
And that's how so many people can operate, and it's not a good way to go about it because you constantly want to, it's like a landfill. It just keeps filling up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I guess eventually they bury those, but for the most part, they just keep filling them with trash, and it's never enough. It's never enough. It's never good enough. You want the next best thing. Look how many iPhones there are.
Oh my God.
1 through like 20, right? And so every year it's like, oh, get the next best one though, and everyone has to get the new one because they have to have the new thing. And you forget to be grateful for the things around you. You
start focusing on the god of materialism.
Yeah, it's the god of greed. That's what it is. You are worshiping money and materialistic things. And when you truly need something material, it will fail you. You know, your computer, your car is going to get up and save your life. You know what I mean? Your new iPhone isn't going to give you salvation. These are the things, right? But we give them these it's kind of like idols. We make them idols. Like, oh, we need this thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. We start to rely on stuff to make us happy.
Yep.
And we start losing, like you said, contentment over what we have. So then we start having a not very grateful spirit. Mm-hmm. And because of that, it distracts us from having that reliance on God to provide for us. Yep. And we start losing sight of what He has provided for us. So then we start losing touch. So that's the issue with being obsessed over materialism and this incessant need to have more and more, because it's another addiction. Oh, yeah. You know, you've started to draw this conclusion that unless you have this stuff or this thing, that you won't be happy, that you won't gain true happiness. But the reality is that you can only have true happiness from God and from focusing on God. So that's the big issue with that.
Yep, and I like the Proverbs that goes with this. Proverbs 27:20, it's, Sheol and Abaddon are never satisfied, nor are the eyes of a person ever satisfied.
Right.
And that's the reality, right? That's what we're talking about. Is you will constantly be there looking at everything, wanting more and more. And so no matter how much you have, it will never be enough. And the crazy thing is, what you have right now, there are people wishing that they had. Yeah. And you're wishing that you had more stuff because you're not happy with what you have anymore.
Because it's a never-ending cycle.
It's never ending.
Trapped in.
Yep.
And so you have to be very wary of that. And that's the case with all of these things, is that these are the temptations that we have to deal with in a fallen world. Yep. So if you start having a temptation, you haven't committed a sin because you've been tempted. It's, are you going to feed the temptation? Yep. Are you going to give in to the temptation?
Yeah, well, it's I like to call it premeditated sin.
Right.
Are you going to choose today to be like, I'm going to worship this iPhone today, and I'm going to give everything I have to get this iPhone, and my main focus is getting this next phone or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or this next thing, and what I have right now, it's not good enough anymore. Everyone has the next best thing, and I want that thing too.
Yeah.
You know, and it's almost like a carrot on a stick. That's how they keep everyone moving forward, you know? Yeah. And constantly going forward because they want something else. They want something more because they're never happy anymore. And the problem with that is, like you said, you'll never be content. Yeah. When you're always looking ahead and you never stop to look around, you'll never be happy with what you have. You'll never be grateful, and you turn into ungratefulness, and then you start worshiping the god of money.
Yeah, you gotta stop and smell the roses, and you realize how many roses God has put into your life.
Exactly right.
You know, and that's the key.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, I think that was good for the second category. So now we're into the last category that John talks about, which is boastful pride of life. Mm-hmm. So this one, I think I needed to read a little bit more into because I was trying to understand what that meant. But it's having an obsession with one's status or importance. Yep. And this is definitely something that I have had a struggle with. And I think a lot of people do. You know, we live in a world, especially here in America, we have this world of education is so prevalent and there's this status quo you gotta reach, you know, you gotta get super educated and get the big house and do all the stuff, the picket fence, all the stuff, you know, and it's like if you don't have a title, That's always what haunted me, was a title. And I think a lot of people struggle with that complex of, oh, I have to get a title or else I'm worthless, and I think it's so crazy that this was put in there because we've always said if you read the Bible and it doesn't pull on something, then you're not reading it right, And this definitely did that for me.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, we live in the social media age. Mm-hmm. So, your ego goes into that too, and then it starts to build a pride, and you have to be so careful of that nowadays, and it's so easy to get like a fat head out of your ego growing, everything else that's growing. And then you think you're so great that you don't need anyone's help anymore. You don't need help from God. You don't need salvation because you're such a great person that, oh, no way. If you walk around and constantly say how great of a person you are, my guess is there's probably a little bit of work to do, at the foundational level. And that's what's so crazy about it is that we live in a day and age where everyone wants to be the next biggest thing, right? Everyone wants to be the biggest thing that there ever was. And I feel like we all have to just be so grateful that we even have the ability to be COGs, children of God.
Yeah.
I was whipping that up in my mind to throw you off.
I like it.
If you can be a child of God or you can be a servant of God, these are the titles that are so amazing. Mm-hmm. And they have such great weight and value to them. And they have a real, treasure at the end. And that's the salvation through our faith. And we can have a home in heaven. And that's what we're aiming for, right? It's that eternal home. Right now, it's temporary. Everything's temporary. This world is passing. It's falling away. You know what I mean? And that's how it is because it's material. So it's always passing on.
Yes. And to add to that, it's important to understand, because I think pride can sometimes be a confusing subject in a lot of ways because, pride comes before the fall, right?
Yeah.
So if you have a surmountaous amount of pride, and like you said, you think that you are just so good that, God owes you something because you're so good.
Yeah.
But it's important to understand that because, I think sometimes for me, I've often thought, well, if I'm not proud, then that means that I have low self-esteem. But that's not what that means. It's important to understand that we are all unique.
Yep.
We're all special, and we're all so loved. But we would have nothing and be nothing if it weren't for God and His grace. We would not be saved if it weren't for His grace. We wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for His love.
Yeah,
you have to remember where you sit on the totem pole.
No, exactly right. Like I said, you always see it out in the world, and it's like, people are like, well, God owes me this. So he, God's in debt to me. Well, that doesn't even make sense. No. That sounds wrong to say.
Yeah.
Because he's not. We're in debt to God. So humble yourself. Remember that. Bring yourself back and be like, okay, God doesn't actually owe me anything.
Yes.
I owe God everything. And that's it. The life you share, the treasures you have around you, the relationships you've made, the people you've met, the people that have touched your lives. These are gifts from God. And people always want to look past that and be like, well, God didn't give me a brand new car, so... But he owes me. He's indebted to me. No, he's not. He's not. We are lucky that we were saved by grace.
Yes.
We can't earn it. We didn't, we didn't do some great crazy works to get there and save ourselves. We had to be saved. We needed a savior. We got one.
Yeah.
Take the gift. Humble yourself. Remember, God doesn't owe us anything.
No.
He's given to us because he loves us, but we can't sit there and be like spoiled children. Well, I want this and this and this. That's insane.
Or if like you're going through a tribulation and then you start thinking, oh, well, why am I going through this? Why me, God? But the reality is you have to see what he is doing and has done and have faith in what he will do because he will take care of his children.
And sometimes the decisions we make, because we have free will, lead us to, there are consequences, and sometimes we have to live through them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sometimes we do. Like if you drive through a construction site and you get a nail in your tire, probably because you drove through the construction site. You know what I mean? So sometimes things happen, and it's because we have free will, and we have to deal with the consequences of our actions. You know what I mean? Doesn't mean that we're not saved from things that we may do wrong, or a time that we slipped and we sinned, or those types of things. It doesn't mean that. It just means that sometimes we still have to deal with the physical repercussions of what we've done.
Yes. Absolutely. Well, I think that was a good breakdown of the three categories. So it's kind of I think it's good to kind of remember that these are the games of the devil, right?
Yep, absolutely.
We're not alone in these struggles.
Yep.
Because, I mean, if you think of the devil tempted Eve in the Garden of Eden, he tempted Jesus in the desert. He attacked these 3 points, these 3 categories. So these are part of being human.
Yep.
This is part of dealing with the temptation that we are surrounded by in a fallen world. And we just have to always keep that in mind and be very wary that we're not opening these doors.
Yeah.
Because they open the doors to the path of destruction.
Yep, and you have to watch yourself because, I mean, think of Eve in the situation, right? She was in the Garden of Eden.
Perfect.
Wow.
Haven.
I mean, a beautiful haven, a sanctuary, right? How amazing. And the devil was still able to convince her, don't think about what you have. Think about what you don't have.
Right.
Eat the fruit because you don't have that. And that's the one thing you don't have, isn't it? And if you had that, well, then you'd be complete. Don't look at all what you have. Don't be grateful for everything around you. You know, and sometimes I think we lose sight of that, like with the things that we should be grateful for. And he's like, focus on what you don't have. Because when you do that, that's what you want. And that's the devil. That's the game of the devil.
When you eat that apple, you'll be like God. So now we're attacking pride. We're attacking lust of the eyes. We're lust of the flesh. Like, oh, it would be so great to, you know. He attacks all these things. I mean, Jesus in the desert. Oh, we'll just turn the stone into bread. You're hungry, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly right. Yep.
So it's like we just have to be very mindful. Yep. And every time that we're dealing with something, go to God about it, which is what we're about to get into. Oh, but real quick, but I wanted to back this up with you had found 1 Peter verse.
Oh yes.
1 Peter chapter 5 verse 8. Be sober of spirit, be on the alert. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. So we have to make sure we never lose ourselves to our own indulgences, because those are the temptations that the devil uses to try to pull us away from God. Yeah,
would you leave the zoo? Would you leave the gate open to the lion's den? No, you wouldn't. You would close that, right? Yeah. That would be a door that you closed because you see it. We don't always see the lion inside, so we open the door, right? Don't open the door. Don't go down that path. Remember, the devil is out there. He is waiting. And if you let him, he will latch on to him. You'll latch on to you, and he'll try to steer you as far away from God's path as he possibly can.
Yes, absolutely. So how do we combat this? What is it that God wants us to love instead? Well, here are 3, you know what I mean. The opposite.
It contradicts it, yes.
Here are the opposite categories that we should be focusing on. So God values us to have self-control. He wants us to have a spirit of generosity, and he wants us to be committed to humble service. So those are the things that we should be focusing on. Those are the doors we should keep open and close the others.
And how interesting, it's the complete opposite.
Yeah, they are the exact opposite.
It's with self-control versus doing whatever feels good at the moment for your body, for your flesh, whatever you want to do, whatever that may be. You know, you have a spirit of generosity versus constant fiending for greed, worshiping God of money. Then you have a committed to humble service versus being prideful and boastful and being like, well, I don't have to touch that. You know, everything I walk on is amazing, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, the things that we talked about were the things that we weren't supposed to love. Those were the things of the world and in the world. And the things that God wants us to do are not of this world. And those are the characteristics of a true Christian, a true follower of Christ.
Absolutely.
And what a beautiful set of characteristics that is. Everyone would love a person like that.
Oh, yeah. Yes, they would. Well, we thank you so much for joining us today, guys. I hope you like the new kind of style we did it. Like we said, it was a little bit different because we're having internet problems and we're just trying it out. And this has been very bad video quality.
Yeah, live always comes out pretty sketchy. So we're going to try this and let us know below. If you prefer us to do it live, we can always go back to that.
Absolutely.
Or if you like this new setup because it's a little bit more clear, the sound's probably a little bit better too. So just let us know in the comments below. We really hope that this has made an impact on you and this has been a really thorough Bible study. Those 2 verses were so power-packed.
Yes, and there's even more to dig out of them. But that's what we brought it to you guys today. And we hope you did take something of it. Take it, apply it to your life and realize that we're not perfect beings, but we can try our best every day. So every day, close that door a little more until eventually it's shut. Board it, close it, cement around it. It's done. Let it be. You know.
Ask God for help because Jesus will help you through that process. I promise.
Absolutely. So we thank you guys for joining us. You all have a blessed day. Thank you. Thanks again, and thank you, and welcome to everyone who's new.
Yes, thank you all. We hope you enjoyed your first Bible study.
Yes.
Have a great day, guys.